Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're going to be showcasing some fun battles from the Master League, featuring a level 50 Shundo Kommo-o with its new legacy move, Clanging Scales. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Bolt Carrier, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now, Komo-o at level 50 does get to about 3,700 combat power, so a bit underpowered compared to the legendaries. This trainer is pairing it up with a double steel backline with Dusk main save switch and the newly buffed Bullet Punch Metagross as the closer. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's see what Kommo-o can do. Well, Kommo-o off to a great start in game number 1 as it's staring down a Kyogre lead. Kyogre is staying in, which means there must be something in the back that isn't a big fan of Kommo-o either. Kyogre is going to go for the Surf, and now we get to see it. Clanging Scales, Kommo-o charging up Clanging Scales, it connects big damage onto Kyogre, and Kommo-o gets a farm down. Opponent sends in Tapu Lele, and considering that Kommo-o is fully walled by Tapu Lele, we will see an immediate save switch into Duskmane Necrozma. Tapu Lele will go for the Nature's Madness, they're staying in this matchup, and now they're going to be immediately put under pressure here by this Dark Pulse. Dark Pulse is going to be shielded, they're looking for the farm down, and they will get it. But there is an entire Clanging Scales loaded on the Kommo-o for later, and now Metagross gets to hit the field. You kind of have to shield something, so Metagross is going to shield up the Nature's Madness, and in the back is Kyurem White, and oh my goodness, Kyurem White is about to have a very bad day. Meteor Mash is shielded, there's the combo play, it's Clanging Scales number 2, that's going to connect, down goes Kyurem White, in comes Tapu Lele trying to Astonish down. They KO Kommo-o, but there's still 80% health Metagross in the back, so that game will end in a win. Moving to game number 2, picking up a bit of a tricky lead here, Kommo-o into the Landorus. Considering what's in the back, you're definitely happy to catch the Landorus on the lead. The Landorus completely threw on alignment there, disrespecting timing. They now bring in Palkia. Palkia's still going to have to shield this. I know it's -1, but Clanging Scales is a cracked move. The opponent just completely disrespects Clanging Scales damage, and they pay for it, and just like that, in a split second, they lose almost their entire Palkia. Back in comes the Landorus. Landorus doesn't get knocked out by a Dark Pulse, but they're going to lose so much HP that they almost feel like they have to put up a shield. Even with already burning a shield, this Landorus is below half HP. Landorus will be forced to fire off the Sandsear Storm to pick up the knockout. There is residual energy available on Kommo-o. Can Kommo-o outpace? Yes. Kommo-o was only 3 off the move, getting to the Clanging Scales, and now the opponent will have to shield or they're losing Landorus. They are going to shield up the Landorus, in comes Metagross, and these bullet punches are adding up. Unfortunately, Metagross will immediately have its damage reduced by the Sandsear Storm. Opponent concedes the farm down because in the back, they have Kyurem, and Kyurem is not a big fan of Meteor Mashes. This is a -1 Meteor Mash, so the opponent will be able to survive it, but not by much. Metagross probably doesn't even get knocked out here, and Bolt Carrier knows it. Get a no shield, Bullet Punch down, and take the win with a shield still intact. We move to the next match, and I'm very curious to see how this team can deal with Rhyperior, because it is just triple weak to Rhyperior. Kommo-o gonna fire off the close combat on charge attack priority. Losing charge attack priority is pretty nice here. Opponent goes for the Rock Wrecker. Somehow the charge attack priority tie didn't trigger. What the heck was that? Kommo-o now going to go for the close combat, but an entire Dragon Tail was missed because of that issue. We're going to see a catch onto Duskmane Necrozma, but Rhyperior can just stay in here and deal so much damage. And that's exactly what they're going to do. Duskmane getting absolutely melted. Duskmane is able to make a Dark Pulse though. Dark Pulse into Rhyperior is going to force a shield, but Rhyperior is just going to get a full farm down. And so far, 1.5 Pokemon have been removed from the field of play. And unfortunately, the Rhyperior is absolutely loaded with energy. In comes Metagross. Rock Wrecker is going to connect. That's some pretty significant damage. Metagross gets the farm down. And my goodness, Rhyperior is just a one-man wrecking ball. The opponent sends in their own Metagross. And my goodness, if this is their best response, maybe there's actually a chance. Earthquake is going to connect. It's not going to pick up the knockout because obviously Earthquake was nerfed in previous seasons, but this will set up a farm down for the Metagross. We should see a switch out now by the opponent. They send in the Kyurem, and Kyurem is getting outpaced. So against all odds, despite Rhyperior basically 1v3ing, the backline was very weak to Metagross energy. What a turn of events. And now this team moves to 3-0. Unfortunately, there's bad news in the next match as this team's Nemesis Rhyperior is going to return. And Rhyperior, this team was able to survive it once, but I don't know if it's surviving it twice. Komo-o gonna shield up the early breaking swipe. That does honestly surprise me a bit. I was a little bit expecting to see the Kommo-o tank the move before the close combat debuff gets applied. Close combat is going to be shielded. There's now a safe switch into the Metagross. Opponent is going to respond with Duskmane Necrozma. Duskmane Necrozma going to get outpaced here. The Earthquake is reached. Earthquake is going to be shielded. And Duskmane can now just double up on Dark Pulses if they want to. So at this point, Metagross knows it's not going to get any value, so it's just going to let itself get KO'd. Back in comes the Kommo-o. Kommo-o will get to the close combat. This is neutral damage onto the Duskmane. Duskmane is unfortunately actually able to tank that move pretty well. Close combat, a pretty strong move, but only neutrally. Opponent full sends the Sunsteel Strike, and now back in comes Rhyperior, and this Rhyperior is just running away with this game. Rock Wrecker, huge damage. There's a low battery warning as well. Oh my goodness. And for Duskmane, I mean, Duskmane's just going to let it go. Duskmane knows this game is very much over. A well-played Rhyperior just feels impossible for this team to beat. In the back is going to be a Dragonite, and Duskmane just cannot get to that Sunsteel Strike. So unfortunately now 3-1 looking for the 4-1 set, and it's another Rhyperior. This time it is the Shadow Rhyperior. The Shadow Rhyperior gonna output a tremendous amount of damage. Kommo-o again gonna put up a very early shield. Rhyperior breaking swipe. Do we see the debuff? No, we do not. Kommo-o going to lose charge stack priority here, but this is fine because a breaking swipe will not be enough to knock out. So Kommo-o is able to hang on. The breaking swipe did debuff, but close combat is still gonna knock out here. The opponent is gonna shield. There's gonna be the pivot into the Metagross. This being the Shadow Rhyperior actually helps Metagross a ton here because these bullet punches actually did real damage. Breaking swipe is gonna land, does get the debuff, but it looks like again they're weak to steel in the back. In comes Kyurem Black. Meteor Mash is going to be shielded. It's a Dragon Tail Kyurem Black at that. Dragon Tail doing them no favors in this matchup. They will pick up the KO with the Fusion Bolt. It's going to be up to Duskmane Necrozma to try and get this sweep. Necrozma farming up energy, immediately put under pressure by the Fusion Bolt, and the final shield is going to come out. Is the opponent in a range where you can knock out with the Dark Pulse here? I believe the answer is yes. Duskmane going to go for the Dark Pulse. This way, Duskmane exits with a ton of residual energy to try and make a move versus whatever's in the back, and it's Florges. Hello, Florges. Goodbye, Florges. Sunsteel Strike connects, and that's going to be a 4-1 set with Shundo Kommo-o. We move to set number 2, Kommo-o. Absolute disastrous lead, staring down Tapu Lele. The safe switch into the Duskmane. Duskmane gonna throw the Dark Pulse on the charge stack priority tie, anticipating that Tapu Lele players really do not like to overfarm. Instead, they really like firing off their Nature's Madness as soon as they get it. Nature's Madness, obviously going to be a resisted move. The opponent, to my surprise, actually ends up switching out here. If the opponent's counting, they know that this is only going to be a Dark Pulse, not an Outrage, but they miscount. That is a huge error from the opponent, as now they're down 2 shields. In comes Kommo-o. Kommo-o calls the bait, gets rocked with a Spatial Rend, and unfortunately, this is now just going to have to be the Metagross show. Metagross will put up an early shield, but Metagross is going to have to fully 1v3. Obviously, the Tapu Lele doesn't have any energy, which is quite nice, but there's still a Palkia, there's still a pretty healthy Tapu Lele, and an entire third Pokemon that is yet to be revealed. In comes the Tapu Lele, only going to get 1 Astonish in, as Metagross will easily knock them out with the Meteor Mash. So they will get KO'd. In the back is a Dialga. Seeing Dialga does quite surprise me, considering that the Crown forms are just incredibly, incredibly strong, and they just do a great job at shutting down Dialga. Earthquake is going to land, Dialga will get Bullet Punch down, and this team, despite a tough lead, is able to escape with a win. The opponent's mismanagement of shields in that mid game really put them on a tough footing. We move to the next match, and it's Rhyperior once again. This time we are going to see a catch onto the Duskmane, but unfortunately Rhyperior can just stay in here and basically just fully farm down. The opponent actually pivots out into Kyurem Black. Kyurem Black gonna fire off a Fusion Bolt. I think Fusion Bolt's actually survivable here. We will see the shield come out, so looking to try and invest in the Duskmane, but Duskmane is at a pacing disadvantage. So I think the slightly better play would have been to no shield with the Duskmane and just try and make a move, because that way you can at least generate a shield shield advantage out of the mid game. Whereas here, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to generate a shield advantage. In comes Kommo'o. Kommo'o may actually be able to get a full farm down here. It's going to be a tough call. Kommo'o is going to commit the shield. There's the free shock. Opponent full sending. Kommo'o exits with a ton of energy. And it looks like Kommo'o did actually TM over to Brick Break for set number 2. The Brick Break is going to be shielded. There's the switch to Metagross. And with that lowered defense, these bullet punches are absolutely lethal. Rock Wrecker from Rhyperior deals devastating damage. Metagross gets the farm down, but has lost almost its entire health bar. The opponent going to send in Dialga as their final Pokemon, and that's going to get rocked with an Earthquake. Earthquake will inflict massive damage. There's still a little bit of health remaining on the Kommo-o. Dialga will get the farm down. Kommo-o has the Brick Break loaded, and Brick Break will be able to KO Dialga. Dialga getting removed from the field of play is important because all that's left is a little bit of health on that Kyurem Black, and this game will be a win. Kommo-o versus Groudon, but it's a Dragon Tail Groudon. That is really unfortunate, and that is going to force a switch out here. Obviously, Groudon, really not a Pokemon that the backline wants to see, but if it's Dragon Tail, then the backline is very fine. Opponent is counting. They know it's just a Dark Pulse, so they will let it go. Duskmane tries to call a bait, and that's going to be an immediate KO, courtesy of Precipice Blades. In comes Metagross. Metagross going to go for massive farm in this matchup. Groudon going to bank a Fire Punch for later. Out comes Zarude. Zarude's a Pokemon I have not seen in absolute ages. I do really like Zarude, but unfortunately meta trends have been exceptionally unkind to it. In comes Kommo-o. Kommo-o going to absorb all of this energy, no problem, and get a big farm down. So Kommo-o exiting with massive energy. The opponent reveals their final Pokemon as Kyurem Black. Kyurem Black going to get baited with a Brick Break. Will they fall for it? Yes, they will. And now this is going to be the Clanging Scales. Does the opponent try to call another Brick Break here? Clanging Scales, it lands. Good night, Kyurem. In comes Groudon. Groudon gets farmed down as well, and that's going to be a 2-shield flex. Moving to the next match, Kommo-o versus Heatran. This is a great lead. Kommo-o completely walls off the Heatran. There's a Dragon Tail Groudon save switch, and this opponent has never seen a Kyogre in their entire life. Last time Duskmane tried to call a bait, it did not go well. Duskmane get a shield, and of course this time it is the bait. Oh, that is so unfortunate. Duskmane not gonna bait though. Looking to just pick up the KO with the Sunsteel Strike, but the opponent will end up committing the shield. They know they've generated an advantage here by baiting, and so they want to keep Groudon on the field. Dark Pulse is going to be no shielded by the opponent. They have so much energy available on this Groudon, choosing to let it go. There's the Fire Punch. Duskmane able to hang on. Duskmane is going to concede switch advantage. That's a huge problem because that means Heatran is now going to be aligned onto the Metagross, where it's going to absolutely destroy. In comes Kommo-o. What does the opponent have in the back? Opponent brings back in the Heatran, and that is incredibly fortunate. Unfortunately, no close combat here means that Kommo-o will just have to fire off Brick Break, and the opponent does not respect it. That is tragic. This is going to be the Magma Storm. Magma Storm does get shielded up by the Kommo-o. Kommo-o continuing the farm. Almost at back-to-back Brick Breaks here. Going for Brick Break number 2. Opponent will end up no shielding, and we see a catch of a Magma Storm onto Metagross. I don't think that was what the goal was here. Metagross loses so much health, and in the back is going to be a Shadow Claw Kyurem Black, and this game is unfortunately just over, as Kyurem Black will farm all the way down and then absolutely nuke that poor Komo-o. The Shadow Claw farm down is ruthless from Kyurem Black. Komo-o does not have to move banked, but even if it did, Kyurem Black is winning charge attack priority by an absolute mile. There's the free shock, and unfortunately, that's going to be a loss. We move to the final match. Kommo-o staring down Ho-Oh. This is a nice spot to be in as the Kommo-o. Kommo-o will get to overfarm quite extensively in this matchup. Kommo-o tries to charge attack priority tie with a Brave Bird, but instead they just give 20 free energy to Ho-Oh. That is tragic. Opponent going to fire off energy. They go for the Brave Bird. They should look to dip here. Opponent stays in. Trader, you can't do that. And they just fully concede a farm down. In comes Kyurem White. Kyurem White now going to get baited with the Brick Break. The Brick Break does get the shield, and then in comes Duskmane Necrozma. The opponent is ahead on energy, so they will outpace here, getting to the Fusion Flare. Fusion Flare does not one-shot from this range, but it does so much damage. Barely able to hang on. Now, this could potentially be an Iron Head. An Iron Head obviously would still do quite a bit of damage, so the opponent will commit the shield. And Metagross, again, up a shield, is going to have to try and accomplish miracles. The opponent will be able to force the final shield, and then we should see an immediate switch into their final Pokemon. Their final Pokemon is revealed, and it's a Charm Primarina. And Metagross is going to easily handle this endgame. Metagross gets to unleash neutral Meteor Mashes. That did not look neutral. Opponent just getting fully KO'd. And that's a good game. All in all, I'm really happy that they gave a Pokemon like Kommo-o just an incredibly busted move. It's not enough to make Kommo-o a meta threat in any league, but it helps Kommo-o have more viability, which is something that I'm definitely a really big fan of. I think Kommo-o will definitely be interesting in the Master Premier formats whenever that next returns, because obviously the power level is a little bit lower in the Premier formats compared to the Open formats, whereas in the Open formats, you're going to have to deal with Pokemon like the Crown forms, which obviously we didn't see in these battles, but we know after Global Go Fest, the Crown forms are going to be every single Master League team. They're just that good. The typing is incredible. We know from the Great League Fairy Steel, it's an incredibly good typing, and that's what Zacian has, and Steel Fighting is an incredible typing as well. So I really think Kommo-o is probably going to be more of a Master Premier Mon. It's a very fun pick for the Master League, but in a meta environment that's about to get absolutely dominated by the Crown forms, I don't think it's going to see as much play. I did end up feeling pleasantly surprised at how well I thought Metagross played. Metagross, it is a resistance to Metal Claw, which is obviously a very valuable thing in a Crown form meta, and with the Bullet Punch damage getting increased this season, it feels like Metagross is a little bit more of a real Mon than it has been in the past, where obviously Power Creep was incredibly unkind to Metagross to the point where it was extremely unplayable in the Open Master League. I think now with the Bullet Punch buff, it's a little bit more playable. Obviously, I think it still loses to Shadow Rhyperior just because Shadow Rhyperior is incredibly overpowered, but it's still able to make that matchup very, very close. And I think that with this extra damage, even in scenarios where Bullet Punch only hits for neutral, it actually feels more like a real fast move, which overall is a really nice plus for Metagross. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.